Here's more wrestling news for December 27th, 2022, and we're starting off this afternoon with WrestleMania 39, as WWE has been busy making plans for their biggest two nights of the year. With the show being two nights, this means there will be two main events, and we now have huge news about who could be headlining these shows. Of course, the match fans want to see is The Rock vs. Roman Reigns, but WWE isn't going to put all their eggs in one basket. According to a run sheet obtained by Wrestling News, the plan for Night 2 is for Roman Reigns to face somebody, and while The Rock is the preferred opponent, WWE has a backup. The report states that in the event of The Rock not being on the show, then Cody Rhodes will face the Tribal Chief. As for Night 1, there is also some huge news, as the current plan is for Seth Rollins to face Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. Now, this implies that Reigns' undisputed WWE Universal title will be split between now and WrestleMania, and at some point, Rollins will be the one holding the gold. If Rock vs. Reigns goes ahead, then instead of McIntyre, it'll be Cody who challenges the Architect for the title in a reignition of their feud that started at WrestleMania 38 this year. Rhodes returned to WWE to become WWE Champion, and that very much could be what happens at WrestleMania 39, depending on if The Rock is available. WrestleMania 39 is shaping up to be one of the biggest events WWE has ever done, with John Cena also reported for the show, but it'll be the actions of Dwayne Johnson that will seriously affect the card. We're looking at Ric Flair now, who made himself a household name thanks to his incredible feuds and matches across several promotions. There are almost no wrestling fans around today who don't know the name Ric Flair, but this wasn't the Nature Boy's original name. Fans may not know that Flair had an incredibly difficult start in life, as when he was an infant, he was abducted from his family and sold to an orphanage. During Peacock's new documentary, Woo! Becoming Ric Flair, the 16-time world champion spoke about his life and how he recently learned his real name, Fred Phillips. While Flair had an incredibly difficult start in life, he would be adopted by a medical doctor of a father and a master's degree-earning mother who'd nurture him in a house of support. Whether he's known as Ric Flair or Fred Phillips, the two-time WWE Hall of Famer will always be considered one of the greatest wrestlers ever and has made a name for himself as a successful legend. Over to AEW, as the company is the biggest competition WWE has seen in decades, so it's no wonder why many have compared the company to WCW. Like the promotion that went under in 2001, AEW is also part of Turner Broadcasting, but that's where the comparisons end as far as Tony Khan is concerned. In his Grapsody interview, Khan joked that he'll avoid doing a finger poke of doom for the January 4th Dynamite, acknowledging the infamous spot from 1999 between Kevin Nash and Hulk Hogan. The spot saw Nash lay down for Hogan after a finger poke, allowing the Hulkster to win, and was seen as a definitive turning-off point for fans, many of whom switched to Raw to watch Mick Foley become WWF champion. Getting more serious, Khan acknowledged the comparisons between WCW and AEW, and said that names like Tony Schiavone and Sting have worked for both companies, but said his promotion will not suffer the same fate. WCW had once kicked the butt of WWF, but was bought for a meager $2 million in 2001, and Tony Khan is adamant that AEW will be staying around for a long time to come. Do you consider AEW to be the new WCW, and is the company destined to face the same fate as the defunct promotion? Let us know in the comments. In July, the WWE landscape changed forever with the retirement of Vince McMahon, who's been replaced by the team of Stephanie McMahon, Nick Khan, and Triple H. Immediately after McMahon's retirement, the game made changes to WWE's roster, bringing many released talents back to the company, but Kevin Nash wants to see another change. During the latest Click This, Nash gave some suggestions for changes the company could make, saying, "Production quality. I would have less house shows. They've already shown for a fact during COVID that it was more profitable for them not to do live events, so come in on Sunday and have a call sheet and shoot, have the crew come in on Saturday and get all the locations in the building for all the shots, have a call sheet, come in and shoot 2 and 3 camera shots that production crew could definitely edit and install on Monday. That's what I would do. And that way, the camera doesn't go back and forth, which tells you it's a camera. It's the point of view that goes back and forth and tells you, I'm watching a televised show. It's the only thing you watch that's trying to convey any kind of a story that is shot with a single camera." Nash has a lot of ideas, but it'll ultimately be WWE's higher-ups who make the call, and we'll have to see if Triple H listens to his click buddy and makes these changes. Yesterday, WWE hosted their annual live event from Madison Square Garden, which saw Liv Morgan face Shayna Baszler in a no disqualification match. Morgan defeated Baszler after hitting her with a leg drop from the top rope through the table, which didn't break, and that didn't sit right with the former SmackDown Women's Champion. After the match, Morgan took out her frustrations on the table, attacking it with a kendo stick before celebrating with the crowd by getting on the turnbuckle. Ever since her loss at Extreme Rules and her title loss, WWE has teased a slightly more unhinged Morgan character, and while it isn't being featured as prominently on WWE TV right now, fans saw a glimpse of the unhinged Liv inside Madison Square Garden. Now it's safe to say that AEW has some of the most passionate wrestling fans in the world who are fiercely loyal to the promotion. AEW is seen as an alternative to WWE, so it makes sense that fans tired of WWE have gravitated towards Tony Khan, but those fans are a bit too devoted for Booker T's liking. Speaking on his Hall of Fame podcast, Booker spoke about the promotion's fan base after one listener described them as like a cult. I agree 100%. I wouldn't say all of them. I'm not going to say all of them, but a lot of them. Sometimes they're just looking for it. It's like being in a relationship. You know where you got one of those girlfriends that's just looking through your phone all the time, just looking for something, making up excuses to have a fight, stuff like that? That's the way AEW fans are. You could be talking about something totally irrelevant to AEW, and they're like, wait a minute, he's talking about AEW. Did he say Kenny Omega? It's that kind of stuff. Like they're paranoid. Relax, no one's thinking about AEW that much, enough to where we're going to try and talk in code about it. Booker has never shied away from sharing his views about AEW, much of which has been negative. And while he'll no doubt receive a ton of backlash from AEW's audience, Booker will likely see this as proof of the point he's making. With comments like these, it's unlikely Booker T will ever work with AEW, and one name we also shouldn't expect is Kurt Angle. Angle returned to WWE in 2017 but was released 3 years later and is kept clear from AEW in the years since then. When asked whether he'd ever work for AEW during the latest episode of his podcast, Kurt said he doubted it'll ever happen. Kurt and Tony Khan have spoken a couple of times, and Angle has thrown an astronomical number they'd have to pay to bring him in, but that clearly hasn't happened yet. Angle explained that he has such a solid relationship with WWE, as well as a nostalgia contract with the company, that he just doesn't want to jeopardize what he has to jump to AEW. An Olympic gold medalist and a legend in pro wrestling too, Kurt Angle would be an incredibly valuable asset for Tony Khan, but the Hall of Famer just isn't interested in being all elite. More from AEW now, as the Acclaimed have proven to be a hit with fans and are closing in on a milestone as World Tag Team Champions. After winning the titles at September's AEW Grand Slam Dynamite, the duo are closing in on 100 days as champion, an accolade they should reach this week. The 8th team to win the titles, Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, are the 5th longest reigning tag champions in AEW, and expect them to climb the rankings in due time. At WWE Clash at the Castle, Solo Sikoa made his main roster debut in Cardiff, costing Drew McIntyre the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. The youngest Uso has been a dominant asset to the bloodline ever since, taking out enemies like Elias and Matt Riddle with the dreaded Samoan Spike. Speaking to the New York Post, Sikoa addressed the move made famous by his uncle, the late Umaga, and how the idea for him to use it came from the top. Put him out of commission, and as a finisher, it'll definitely be one of my finishers now moving forward. The idea came from Triple H. Hunter pulled me aside. I think it was Paul Heyman's idea too. So Hunter wanted to run it by me. He goes, I know your uncle was a big part of your guys' family. I know what he meant to you guys. I wanted to ask you if you would be okay using the spike. I was like, I don't know. I kind of want to stay away from it because that's his thing. And he was like, I know he passed away and yesterday was his anniversary, which was a Sunday, and the next day was Raw. He goes, I think it'll be cool if you pay tribute to him on TV by using the spike. I was like, you know what, man? Yeah, let's do it. Once he said that, I kind of got emotional. I was like, wow. For those who don't remember who Umaga was, now I'm about to refresh their memory. It was a pretty cool moment for me to pay tribute to him. Sikoa made his debut for WWE in October 2021 and has come a long way in just over a year, including a stint as NXT North American Champion. As for his uncle, Umaga was considered one of the most dangerous superstars of his day and feuded with top names like John Cena and Bobby Lashley, and while he sadly passed away in December 2009, his legacy lives on with his nephew and his finishing move. And we're ending today with Mandy Rose, who lost the NXT Women's Championship to Roxanne Perez earlier this month and was released from WWE the next day. Rose had been NXT's top female heel for her 413-day reign as champion, but there's nothing but love between herself and the woman who dethroned her. Responding to praise from Perez, Rose tweeted that she loves the new champion and that she thinks Perez is amazing. With how much Rose is earning online with her website, it may be a long time before we get to see her back in the ring, but she's ready to work with Perez again if WWE give her the opportunity.